Hi, everybody. This is Adam Elenbaas from Nightlight Astrology, and you're listening to my November horoscopes for 2018. This is the sun sign horoscope for Aries. You can also listen to this horoscope for your rising sign if you were a rising sign Aries, and sometimes people will even listen to their moon sign. If you happen to know your moon sign and it's Aries, you may find some relevance in this as well. However, mostly people stick with their ascendant or sun sign and find over time that there'll be one that regularly makes more sense. So we're going to talk through some major themes this month in your chart and some important dates, starting with the new moon on November 7th, which lands, here we go, lands in your 8th house. Now the 8th house can represent a variety of different topics. A new moon plants a seed and tones the cycle ahead. So in the 8th house, you're thinking of themes of death and rebirth, of loss and impermanence, of change and transformation. Usually that's a little bit hard to confront, but it often makes us stronger when we do. The 8th house is also related to the theme of other people's money, or a partner or spouse's income, or resources that come from other people, the subject of being dependent upon someone else, sometimes other people being dependent upon us. So these themes are all pronounced with this new moon landing in Scorpio in the 8th house. Now, all of October, you also had Venus retrograde in the 8th house. Venus retrograde is now in your 7th house, which is the house of relationships, love, partnering. And this Venus retrograde all month long is going to be opposite to Uranus in the 1st house, which will bring up themes of independence versus dependence, themes of compromise, seeking greater harmony and accord or agreement with others. But on the other hand, Uranus in Aries is really emphasizing the need for greater independence, greater personal freedom, greater personal self-expression. So those two energies, Venus in the 7th house of partnerships and love, and Uranus, this rebellious, independent, spirited planet in the 1st house of self, they are going head-to-head, toe-to-toe all month long. Two important dates, November 17th, when Venus turns direct. You may see a little change of momentum for the better around that time if things are tense. And also, toward the very end of the month, November 30th, Venus will oppose Uranus, which can be a more heated or intense climatic moment, even though Venus turns direct on the 17th and you may see a change of momentum for the better. There still may be a test to come at the end of the month between Venus and Uranus, finishing up a long series of oppositions that they have had to one another over the course of past couple of months. So that's your Venus opposite Uranus transit, which is again active basically all month long. Now, another really big transit that's coming on November 8th is the entrance of Jupiter into the sign of Sagittarius. Jupiter enters the sign and stays in each sign that it goes into for 1 year at a time. So Jupiter switching signs out of Scorpio in your 8th house, house of death, rebirth, other people's money or resources, kind of a heavier, deeper place for Jupiter. Jupiter always brings lessons, expansion, good fortune or good luck, a sense of wisdom and enthusiasm and optimism, but a little bit heavier, darker, deeper qualities when Jupiter is in Scorpio can make some of the lessons that we learn a little bit harder, a little bit more challenging, or a little bit just kind of darker or heavier. Jupiter entering into Sagittarius, a lot lighter, a lot more buoyant, entering into the 9th house, house of religion, the search for truth, whether you're a physicist or a mystic. It's a house that's related to foreign countries, travel abroad, higher education. So a great year coming up now for you to expand your knowledge or education, to return to school, to travel abroad, to adventure, to seek the truth, to deepen your studies in something, to find mentors or teachers, maybe to engage in the exploration of a new spiritual practice. You'll certainly feel the emphasis here. You want to be careful of the inflation, exaggeration, or sort of potential for your ego to get a little puffed up, especially when talking about or espousing beliefs and things that you're real certain about. Jupiter can be a little a little fiery and dogmatic at times. And in the ninth house, you'll have, you might be fired up about the things you believe. Not a bad thing, just wanting to be a little bit careful of that. Some other important transits this month. On November 15th, I'm going to see another really interesting transit, which is the entrance of the planet Mars into the 12th house, the sign of Pisces. It's been in Aquarius since about the middle of May, if you can believe that. So it's mostly been in Aquarius since that time. So to see Mars changing signs around November 15th, popping into your 12th house in Pisces, very interesting. Mars in your 12th house can be a little self-destructive. You want to be careful of that. Can also have a lot to do with sacrifice. What are you willing to sacrifice? Who are you willing to sacrifice for? The themes of victims, saviors, martyrs, heroes, the healthy and the unhealthy sides of those archetypes, all may be present with Mars in Pisces in your 12th house. So a time of solitude, a time of facing inner shadows, of kind of pushing yourself goes along. And Mars will be square to Jupiter around the 19th of November in the 9th house. There could be some themes of crusading, questing, fighting or advocating for things that you believe in. And maybe, again, some themes of religious or spiritual, kind of the almost like the dark night of the soul, where you're looking for truth. You have to kind of go deeply inward into some more conflicted places within yourself. Mars in the 12th. That's your ruling planet, Mars. So entering the 12th house between now and more like the end of the year. You're on the precipice of Mars entering your first house in its home sign, a bit of a breakthrough coming, but there's some gestational waters you have to go through, a place of inner turmoil and inner questioning and maybe inward focus before that breakthrough will come with Mars entering your first house down the road. I think it happens right before the end of the year, but it might be in the very early part of 2019. I have to double check. Anyway, so that's the 15th. Now, when you go forward just a little bit after that, on the 17th, you're going to get a same repetition of themes between the 9th and 12th house, Mercury turning retrograde in your 9th and squaring Neptune in the 12th. Again, you're thinking of a process of reflecting upon your beliefs, your ideals, a spiritual time of reflection, confusion, doubt, but also perhaps tapping into higher realities through meditation or altered states of consciousness, dreams, messages in dreams, things that you're learning and things that you have doubts about as you're learning. This process, though, throughout the month between the 9th and the 12th has a really deep feeling to it. And I think it's a month. It's more inward, mental, intellectual, spiritual overall. And you see the same thing repeated on the 22nd and 23rd with the full moon falling in Gemini in your 3rd house. Moon on, let me go forward one more day here. See, there's the moon in Gemini in your 3rd. Full moon in that house, the house of the mind, house of communication, speech, learning. It's creating a T-square between the planets of the Sun, Jupiter, and Mercury retrograde in the 9th. Mars in Pisces and Neptune in Pisces in the 12th. It's a gestational period for you, mind, belief, spirit. It's more of an inward turning time, contemplation of what you can and cannot compromise about, where you can compromise, I should say, and where you can't, where you can sacrifice and where you shouldn't. Your own voice and your own mind, and when that's a self-destructive thing and when you should be maybe just following a higher calling, a higher order, or kind of staying within the parameters of a higher set of guidelines, or when it's time to deviate, when your own voice is necessary and when it might be self-destructive to speak out of turn or to speak out of place or to defy the tradition. These kinds of questions are all pronounced. But it also may be a great time for things like writing, journaling, reflecting, learning, teaching, writing, but a transformational time within these more liminal, mental, intellectual, and spiritual spaces. So that's what I've got for you this month. I hope that this makes some sense. If you have stories you'd like to share, I'd love to hear from you. Otherwise, I will look forward to touching base with you again next month for your December horoscope. All right, take care, Aries.